The role of the Nembutsu in Pure Land Happiness Buddhism. In Buddhism, there are many celestial Buddhas that permeate the pantheon of Mahayana Buddhism, and the foremost among them is Amitabha, or the Buddha of unlimited light, who is also known as Amitsuo in China and Amida in Japan, which comes from the short Sanskrit form Amita. As ruler over the Western Paradise, or Pure Land of Sakavati, Amitabha welcomes all who earnestly wish to be reborn there and requires only a strong commitment of faith in Amitabha's vows. This tradition is sometimes referred to as the easy way because it relies on faith rather than meditation, and it is stated that anyone who desires rebirth in the Pure Land only needs to recite the name of Amitabha or think of this desire 10 times in order to actualize their ambition. Long before the Pure Land theory was molded into a sect, it was part of the teaching and practice of other sects. For example, practices of praying for the dead and the invocation of Nembutsu were already known in the Nara, Tendai, and Shingon sects. However, it was only one among various methods of concentration, and Amitabha was simply one among a plurality of gods. Pure Buddhism is a movement that had its beginnings in India but emerged as a widespread movement in China and Japan, and is predicated on the idea that among the countless Buddhas that populate the universe, all of whom are expressions of the single reality of nirvana, there is one, Amitabha, who offers a particularly felicitous and compelling path to enlightenment. I chose to explore this topic because I find the belief that anyone can obtain enlightenment, regardless of whether they are Buddhist or not, to be intriguing, and the purpose of this paper is to examine and explore the role and significance of the Nembutsu in Pure Land Buddhism as a path one may choose to take in order to obtain this enlightenment or reach nirvana. Nembutsu is the formula Namo Amitabhaya Buddhaya, which means homage to Amitabha Buddha, by which the Pure Land Buddhism faith is expressed, and its repetition is a necessary ingredient for achieving rebirth in the Pure Land. According to Pure Land scholars, the Nembutsu is the invocation of the name of Amitabha and the expression of a man's complete dependence on Amitabha as far as his salvation and rebirth are concerned. Shinran viewed the Nembutsu from two aspects, Nembutsu as a faith and Nembutsu as a practice, but he also viewed it as the crystallization of all Buddhist teachings and a unity of both faith and practice. It was around the 10th and 11th century that the popularization of Amita's ideas became more prominent, and it was the publication of Genshin's Oju Yoishu, a collection of essentials concerning rebirth in the Western Paradise, in 985, which provided a point for the evolution of the Nembutsu concept to depart from. In 986, Genshin helped form a devotional association known as the Nembutsu Society of 25, which was the first genuine Nembutsu society to exist in Japan, and it is believed that the Oju Yoshu was composed as a devotional guide for the members of this society. The 25 members, which included both clergy and laymen, took vows to be spiritual brothers to one another, especially tending to each other during times of sickness or death, assisting at prayer and Nembutsu, and aiding one another in every way during this and all future lives, in order to achieve Pure Land salvation and Buddhahood. The Oju-Yoshu is uniquely pivotal in the development of a Chinese Pure Land movement because it brought in an easily accessible form of Pure Land teachings from virtually the entire Chinese Buddhist canon, introduced works and ideas of Chinese Pure Land thinkers, created a coherent system of Pure Land theory and practice, and introduced and helped make acceptable new and significant concerns such as the possibility of Pure Land salvation being available to the ordinary man. Honen was the most important person to take inspiration from the Oji-Oishu. The period of time that he lived, 1133 to 1212, was characterized as the eclipse of learning, and his teachings are a reflection of that changing society. During this time, action, not meditation, was the byword, and warrior rather than courtier was the man of the hour. And in response to these times, his theory was practical, direct, taught that no long discipline or scholarly preparation is necessary to gain entrance into the Western paradise, and that all who call upon Amitabha shall be saved, which was appealing during this time of social turbulence. Pure Land teachings have been in Japan since at least the time of Inen, 794 to 864, who had studied it and other traditions while in China. However, it is Honen who is regarded as the founder of the Pure Land school, Jodishu of Japanese Buddhism, and the true Pure Land school of Japanese Buddhism was found by Shinran and based on the Jodishu of Honen, which preceded it. Honen's school continued the Buddhist monastic tradition. The textual basis of the school remained the larger and smaller Sukhavatiyaha Sutras and Amitabhidaya Sutra, and the religious practice focused on the Nembutsu. And for Honen, the formula Namu Amida Butsu was considered an appropriate religious practice during this period of Dharma decline, as it is a means of strengthening one's faith in Amitabha, not merely just an expression of trust. Shinran's religious practice also focuses on the recitation of this formula known as the Nembutsu, precisely stated as Namu Amida Butsu, and is considered an expression of complete trust in Amitabha, where recitation presumably guarantees the disciple's rebirth in the Pure Land. However, Jodo Shinju is an exclusively lay organization with no formally monastic tradition. The Nembutsu is a means of expressing faith and devotion which was developed out of the formula of initiation and dedication as the triple refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. Along with this developed the triple reflection, or three kinds of mindfulness, which includes reflection on the Buddha, on the Dharma, and on the Sangha found in the Pali Canon. Nembutsu literally means Buddha reflection or to think on the Buddha, but early within the Pure Land tradition it came to signify not only thinking and meditating on the Buddha, but also contemplating his physical appearance and calling his name with the sacred formula Namu Amida Butsu. According to both Honen and Shinran, the flow of the Nembutsu came directly from Amitabha Buddha, and therefore those teachings are considered by some to be other power Nembutsu. Suzuki interprets the Pure Land paradise as a metaphysical world that can be experienced in this life rather than after death. There are many Pure Lands, and it is in the 48 vows of Amitabha Buddha that he perfects his Pure Land. This Pure Land is the country where the Buddha of eternal life and infinite light abides, and is the world in which there is neither bodily nor mental pain for living beings, and where the sources of happiness are innumerable. In the sutra Shakyamuni, Buddha relates the story of a bhikshu who conceives a deep and boundless desire to achieve complete and perfect enlightenment. So for an inconceivably long period of time performs innumerable selfless and heroic bodhisattva works in order to earn a Pure Land superior to all the others. As a result of the Amitabha Buddha's immense bodhisattva endeavor, he was able to achieve not only his own deliverance, but effectively provided the same for all mankind through the easy practice of Ten Nembutsu. The Amitabhidaya Sutra introduces not only the magical mantra whose recitation guarantees rebirth in this Western land of happiness, but also a series of meditations wherein the meditator in fact creates the paradise for himself. The Nembutsu is used both in daily life as well as in community practice, and after the practice of reciting the Nembutsu was first brought over from China by Inen, it became one of the most popular practices of Buddhism. Although contemplation of Amitabha, along with the repetition of the words Nama Ame Buddha, was believed to be one of the ways to attain salvation in Amitabha's Pure Land, Shonen introduced Nembutsu Odori as a ritual dance and recitation of Nembutsu to attain salvation. The Nembutsu Odori is performed as a group dance where the people first gather in a Sishuko, and facing the Buddha they chant, read, and dance to a definitive pattern of 72 drum beats. Shinran showed explicitly that the Nembutsu practice as the expression of right faith is the same as the Bodhisattva, which fulfills man's innermost wish to be what he originally and essentially is, like the Buddha, attaining his original nature that is free from egotistic drive or influence of klesha, which are disturbing or unwholesome mental practices. The Nembutsu was selected by Honen from among various practices that were also supposed to lead to final deliverance, and he showed his grounds for making that selection through both theoretical arguments and his charismatic personality. It was Shinran's mission to show the world that what Honen intended to be revealed, and he did so by sharply distinguishing the element of absolute truth, Paramartha Satya, from conditional truth, Vihara Satya, within the practice of the Nembutsu. Within Pure Land teachings, there is an entire chapter devoted to faith. This chapter is split into two sections, with the first being based on the spirit of the 18th vow, which declares that all sentient beings who recite the Nembutsu in deep faith shall be delivered, and the second being based on the fulfillment of that same vow. It is through the correlation of these two parts that Shinran was able to show that the Nembutsu is the Buddha's calling upon all sentient beings in the samsara, the sea of birth and death, not man's prayer seeking some kind of benefit. It is not only a calling on the part of Amitabha, but also the response of man who is being called. And simultaneously, the act of saying the Nembutsu is itself fulfilling Amitabha's vow in man. As a result of this insight Shimron gained, he was able to shift the significance of Ojo, birth in the Pure Land, away from the time of physical death into the moment a man experiences an existential death, here and now in the act of the Nembutsu. Throughout the course of the continued transmission of Pure Land Buddhist teachings, a countless number of people have found the profound joy of faith and deliverance in the teaching and practice of the Nembutsu throughout their lives. In conclusion, the Nembutsu of Pure Land Happiness Buddhism is a vital practice which serves as a means to express one's faith, seek salvation, foster mindfulness, build community, ensure accessibility to all, and offer a path to enlightenment. I would like to end with this quote: that the Pure Land teaching up to the present day has steadily produced throughout India, China, and Japan innumerable commentaries and sub-commentaries on its basic sutras, testifies to the fact that its teaching in itself embodies something immoral and universal, and its history is none other than the story of the steady progress of the Nembutsu teaching for countless people who have been edified thereby and delivered from samsara, the vicious cycle of birth and death, by virtue of the truth embodied in it.